Hello everyone, in this video let us talk about literate programming. So in this video I wanted to spend some time talking about literate programming, and I will not really talk about too much in depth. I just want to give you a very quick introduction and give you an idea about what exactly is literate programming. So if you are into programming, if you have written code before, I'm sure you know, or I'm sure you have probably figured it out already. Hopefully, that it is very difficult to explain someone the code that you have written. So whenever you look at the source code is something that you write for the computers, and the computers can understand the code. But the problem is that when you write a code, you also have to maintain it. And when it comes to maintaining the code, it is not always the machines who will maintain the code. It is human beings. So the whole idea behind literate programming is that when you write your code, you also explain what the code is all about. So basically, it's a mixture of a document that you create explaining what the code is doing. And when you talk about how it will be done, you basically create a document and you embed some snippets of code. And those snippets of code are something that you can also run. So I'll show you today how it works. And just to give you some background, literate programming was um introduced by Donald Donald Knuth. He is a famous computer scientist, and if you want to know more about literate programming, you can search on Wikipedia. There are plenty of examples, but today I want to show you a working example. So as you probably know that I write books, and my books are technical in nature. When you write a technical book where you also have some source code involved, it is a bit difficult to keep the source code up to date. It is also difficult to to basically display the result of your source code. So I am actually writing a book on Groovy. It is something that I will keep in public domain. It is more or less a book that will talk about how to learn Groovy quickly and how to use it in your projects. And there is a reason why I'm talking about Groovy, because I work on Atlassian tools a lot. And when it comes to doing automation, using some other add-ons in Jira like Script Runner, you have to use Groovy. So Groovy is something that really helps me every day, and I want to share whatever little I know. Now, if you look at this particular document here, it is nothing but an HTML export of the document or the book that I'm preparing. So in this particular file here, you can see that I have um, some snippets. These are not really code. I mean, it is kind of a code, but you are, I mean, the instructions here tells you that run this on your shell, and it will of course generate some output. And if I show you how I wrote this, I basically used Emacs. So I use Emacs quite a lot, and I use it for different purposes, and I use an org mode. Org mode is amazing. I mean, I will probably talk about org mode maybe separately. I have written a couple of blog posts about org mode, and I basically use org mode for uh, keeping track of my activities, my notes, my task, my to-do list, and plenty of other things. And I also use org mode to I will be using it to write this book. Now, if you look at this document here, there is a lot of text. Here, of course, you have different sections like introduction, who this book is for. But if you notice here that I have also included some snippets of code. So the snippet of code is actually this one, like brew install Groovy. So this is basically an instruction for the user, the person who is trying to read the book, trying to learn Groovy, that run this command and it will of course um, install Groovy in your computer. Now, the next command here is once the Groovy is installed, you can check the version of Groovy that is installed on your computer. Now, if I run the same command, if I let us say uh, maybe I want to show you how this works, and if I type here Groovy, you can see the output, of course, on the terminal. Let me just type in here Groovy version. You can see, of course, the output on this terminal here. But while I'm making this document, this book, I can also run this as a shell command, or it could be a Groovy script, or it could be um, any language that you can run, any code snippet that you want to run, and also evaluate. So if I uh, press Control C, I'm now able to evaluate the shell code block. And if I type in here yes, it will take a couple of seconds and then it will present this output. So this output is actually uh, same as what I just showed you. So this is of course a very simple example here where I'm trying to show you how you can use how you can use um, the the code snippets in your document. And of course, this is all real uh, time. I mean, when you export this document as as an HTML file, it will also have the code and also the output. So what I can do here, I can also uh, type in here export. Let me just check the exact. So I can type in here exports both. So what will happen? It will export not only the code but also the output of this particular shell command that I just ran. So if I do here org HTML export to HTML, it will create one file, uh, one HTML file that I can simply use as my end product. So this is my HTML file, and if I do a refresh, I can see here that this is the command that I just ran, and this is the output, and it is something that will save me a time, save me a lot of time. And these code snippets that I'm using, I can also reuse them. So this is, of course, the simplest example that I can probably give you. If you want to set up, or if you want to do the same thing, you can take a look at this document. So if you search on Google org mode Babel, it will take you to this page where you can read about how to enable this in Emacs. You can, of course, um, I mean, it should be enabled if you're using the recent version of Emacs, but if you have to enable it, there are instructions, and you can know more about how to use literate programming in org mode. So I will try to share more knowledge, more learnings when I'm learning, of course. I will share more things about literate programming and how you can also adopt it. Not, I mean, you can use literate programming to, of course, write a book, a technical book, but you can also use it for your own book not really book, but also your personal notes. Maybe you're writing a piece of code that you want to explain to someone. And when you have a document that contains a source code, a working source code, which is of course validated because you have to evaluate it, it will always work. You can always keep it up to date with the recent versions of the language that will probably release. And of course, the whole idea here is to write a code that you can easily explain to someone else. So this is all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you learned something new today and you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you very much.